Hey guys, Sherman here, back with another deck profile for this channel. I'm so excited to share the deck that I made top 8 with at BCS Duluth in Georgia this past weekend. I won 7 games in Swiss, went 7-1, and then I unfortunately lost the first round of top 8 to Adventure Time, but it was a really good run. I played really well, and the deck that I represented was DAL, which is a very interesting deck. It's also a deck we haven't featured on this channel, so I thought it would be a great time to show it off. I'll go ahead and do the deck profile first, and then while the deck is still on the map, we'll answer some questions that I feel like you guys might have about my deck choice and card selection. And of course, if you have any other questions, feel free to ask in the comments section below. So first off, we are playing 4 copies of the Data Bullet Riki. This is the Kurumi double rare from Data Bullet. On play, you can pay 1 and clock a date or celestial spirit from your waiting room to the bottom of your clock in order to search your deck for a level 1 or lower. This is the Riki I went with. I did test the other Kurumi, which is from Daylife 2, which is the on reverse one. You clock yourself from top deck and then you do the Segres effect. I really like the on-demand value that this Riki gives, especially with some of the other level 0s that we're running. And so eventually, after testing both of them a lot, I stuck with this, and this was definitely the right choice for this type of deck. Even though the other one does, I guess, save you a stock, the on-demand value of this is just so important. Alright, next I'm playing 4 copies of the Origami JC from Day Live 2. This card gets 1000 power during your turn, and when one of your other date or celestial spirit is front attacked, you can pay 1 and send this from stage to waiting room in order to bounce that character back to your hand. Now, this is one of the reasons why I actually chose Data Life. It had a JC effect. Basically, ability to deny on reverse is really good in this current meta. There's a lot of cards that do want to get reverses, like Ame and Standby Gura, as well as some finishers that do want to get reverses, like Azula from Avatar: The Last Airbender. So having this option does allow you to play kind of defensively in that way. It also generates some advantage at level 0, and it's also pretty big on your turn, so it can help get rid of some threats. So yeah, this is a pretty good card. Alright, next card we're playing is 3 copies of Another Me Origami. This is the double drop search. We call it double drop search on play, on attack. So the turn that is played, on attack, pay 1, ditch 2, search your deck for 2 celestial or date characters, add them to your hand. The double filter is super strong, especially first deck, and this is like another main reason why I chose Data Live, because right now a lot of decks are very aggressive. If you think about decks like Azure Lane and Arifureta, they're trying to drop a lot of soul damage early, and it's pretty imperative to find a way to compress as early as possible. And no other set has a way to compress as early and as well as Data Live with Another Me Origami. Being able to search 2 clean cards out of your deck during your attack step is really, really powerful. Does set you up for a lot of cancels either the turn afterwards or just like in your first deck. Your first deck cancels are way higher in my opinion. If you can rekey into Origami, that's 3 clean cards searched out of your deck just at level 0, which is like really insane. So this is like the play I go for basically every single turn 2. Whenever I have a turn 2, I just rekey into Origami if I'm still at level 0, and that just really sets me up for level 1. Or if I open this Origami and I'm going second, I just tri-field and attack with the Origami to get the searches I need. Yeah, so very, very good card. One of the main reasons to play Data Live. Any Data Live deck you play, try to be playing the Origami. It's really good. Alright, next we're playing 3 copies of Vulnerable Toka. This is the Brainstorm of choice. It is a Salvage Brainstorm, which is one of the best modes for Brainstorm, and it does climax combo with the book that we're running. And so, kind of just showing it off here. This is the foil version. So, Proof of Love. The climax combo is an act ability. You can pay 2, put the top card of your deck into your clock, and then choose a Proof of Love from your waiting room and put it directly into the climax area. And you can choose one of your characters to give plus 1000 power as well. So this basically immediately activates your climax, and it's really good at level 3 if you can't get the climax combo to hand. No fear, just pay 2 stock, clock yourself, and then you just get the climax access from your waiting room. Very easy. So this is also like really strong because sometimes your opponent will try to lock you at 2 to try to deny your finishing turn, but the ability of this card being able to clock yourself can help you push yourself into level 3 and also get your climax available immediately so you can go for a finishing turn. And this basically makes it so that I never have to hold climax. I always feel pretty comfortable knowing that I'll always be able to get into my climax from like wherever it is, as long as I can get into my waiting room, which is pretty easy. So yeah, that's why we're playing 3 copies. You could play 2 or 3, but I do think 3 is nice. I do want to see this on the board at some time during the game, just to threaten the ability to have that climax access anytime. Alright, playing 2 copies of Can You Find Me Natsumi. 2 pretty interesting effects. So she is both a field encore and a helmet effect. So the field encore, you can send her from stage to waiting room, give one of your characters plus 1500 power when they get front attacked. And then the helmet effect, you send her from stage to waiting room, discard a card, salvage a Celestial Spirit or Date. So this deck generates a ton of advantage, especially with our level 1 package. So a lot of the times, we're not hurting for hand, but this deck is very stock intensive. So we want ways to get cards without using stock. Natsumi definitely allows us to salvage without using stock, which is very important. We also have some field conditions that we need to meet in this deck, like 4 or more other, for example. So Natsumi also helps us be able to like meet multiple 4 or more other field conditions. And the field encore is very important because our level 1 combo is quite big on defense. So we do want ways to protect it. And I didn't like devoting slots to 2k backups in this deck. It just felt really, really bad. Because it would only come up like for a brief window, basically only at level 1, and then later it was just like a really dead card. So I wanted a way to buff power without necessarily having to run 2k backups, and the 1-5 backup on the field is almost as good as a 2k backup in the hand. So yeah, this actually comes up quite often. This card was honestly a huge MVP in testing. That's why I started off with 1 and then, or started off with 0 and then added 1 because I thought it would be good, and then I eventually went up to 2, and this card is just really good. Alright, and then some 1-ups at level 0, a Climax Swap Origami. The other effect is also very relevant. When you play her from hand, you can reveal your hand, and if it has a Climax, your opponent's front row minuses 500 power. So again, minus 500 power, really good in like Overlord matchup, also good in just some other decks that do run 500 power like weenies in the front row. You can just use this to kill them. So yeah, that's really nice. And then we're playing 1 copy of Full of Smiles Yoshino. This is a tech that I saw. We actually featured this card in the gameplay video that Tressa Collectibles did with the 8-book deck. I think it was Mike's build of it. So I stole that from that, and there was also some other deck profiles on YouTube that featured this. And after testing it, I really like it. This card's crazy, actually. So on play, you can give one of your other, actually not even other, it's any, yeah. On play, you can choose a Date or Celestial Spirit on your board, give it 1500 power, and you can do that same thing on attack. So on attack, you can choose a Date or Celestial Spirit, give it 1500 power. So worst case scenario, she just attacks for 4k power. You just buff her twice. And that's actually really good. Like 4k basically clears anything at level 0. But also, you can split it so that you can give 2 cards 1500. And that actually comes up for a lot of the math in this deck. I'll talk about that later. But basically, yeah, like at level 1 and level 3, at both levels, we want our level 1 combo and our level 3 combo to survive and to be able to get reverses. And so this Yoshino is really critical to be able to do that. It comes up a lot in like standby and like big body matchups. When we're just fighting for a board, this Yoshino is very clutch. And then lastly, Mo's 9 Queen. This is kind of like the MVP. This card single-handedly won my round 7 matchup against Standby Gura. The clock access is so good. Not only is it like a way to access the clock, which is usually very difficult to access, it's also costless. You can discard a card, choose a Date or Celestial Spirit from your clock, add it to your hand, and you clock yourself on the top of your deck. But you can also set this up with the Riki. So you can use the Riki to clock a character from your waiting room that you want to grab, and then you can use Queen to grab that character out. And even better, you can actually use the Riki to find the Queen, and then that way it's like basically you turn your Riki into a pay 1 like salvage Riki, right? Which is really cool. And then the second effect comes up a lot. It's on play, choose one of your opponent's characters in front row, minus 1000 power. So beats Overlord boards at level 0. Also helps you with power in the mid game. This card is crazy. I really liked it in testing, and I think, yeah, it's just a fabulous card. Alright, level 1 combo. It is the Important Promise Toka. This is from set 1. This is the set 1 book combo. This Toka is one of the best combos, level 1 combos in the game. To this day, is also why they never reprinted this combo, because they kind of forgot a very important text on this card. So this card gets 2000 power if you have 2 or more other Date or Celestial Spirit, and then the Climax combo is at the start of your Encore step. If the character across from this is reversed, or there's no character across from this card, you can look at the top 5 cards of your deck, choose up to 1 Date or Celestial Spirit, add it to your hand, send the rest to the waiting room, and it gets 500 power until the end of your opponent's turn. This card does not have a line of text that says it must be in the front row. Therefore, if it's in the back row, it will automatically fulfill the Climax combo condition because there's no character facing the card, because back row, your slots in the back row don't have characters facing them. So you can actually Climax combo with 4 copies of the Toka, 2 in the front, 2 in the back, or 3 in the front, 1 in the back, and you can actually resolve it 4 times. Bushiroad has not fixed this in the JP version or the English version, but in future printings of effects like this, they have remembered to add that the card must be in center stage in the front row. But this one can activate anywhere, so it's still great, it's still amazing. And then 6-5 defense with some additional power buffs on our board makes it so that it's actually pretty big. We can protect it very easily with counters like the Natsumi counter or 1-0 counters that we're running. Yeah, and then the Mill 5. Mill 5 is so good. Yeah, it just allows you to go through your deck really, really quickly so that if you do cancel early, you can like zoom through. And if you don't cancel, you can actually just not mill too much and still have a lot of cancels left in the deck. It's so much flexibility with the mill, really, really strong. And then the Toka being seductive, this is the book support. This is kind of the main reason why we would opt to play 8 book instead of either like 4 book and 4 something else. This is kind of like, yeah, we're committed to 8 book because she turns our book triggers into better triggers. So when you trigger a book, a climax with a book trigger, you can pay a stock and salvage a date or celestial spirit character from your waiting room. So so after you trigger, the climax goes into your stock, and so by paying a stock, you pay the climax immediately out, and then you can salvage anything you want. So all our books become +2s, and we get to clean out our stock on demand. Basically, we don't have to like find other ways to keep our stock clean. We just automatically do it. This card is just so custom. Basically, it's just insane. Like yeah, our stock is always clean. We always have really good compression. Our hand advantage is always in a really, really good state. We can stop clocking pretty early in a lot of matchups where we want to do that. For example, against Gura. And then it's also global 500 to all our characters. So with the Toka, bumps her up to 7,000 power. It's like, it's so big. She's so big. Yeah, and a lot of different ways. And then the last effect is works with our level 3 Toka. Oh, that's not the Toka. It gives our level 3 Toka plus 2,000 power during our turn, which is very important because this Toka needs to be big to get reverses. So yeah, 2 copies of Toka being seductive. You can bump it up to 3, but I thought 2 felt pretty good. You could have 2 of them on the board. If you have 2 of them on the board, you can actually activate the effect twice to pay 2 stock, salvage 2. But stock is actually quite important in this deck because we have a lot of stuff that uses stock, and we don't actually generate that much stock overall. So I don't try to use that. I try not to use this until I actually need it. Usually towards the end of a deck to help clean out climaxes for the refresh. Alright, I'm playing 2 copies of Sensing Danger Yoshino. This is the anti-change level 1 counter. I'm running 2 because we really want to see this card in a lot of matchups. Standby matchups, this is really, really good against stuff like Overlord. If we don't have 2 and our opponent sees 1, they can you know, take a gamble and front, and if we don't have the counter, then we can actually just lose a lot of advantage if they choose to play like that and play a little risky. But it's just really nice to have this card always available. And then the 1,000 power actually is usually enough to protect Toka against level 1 targets. I am testing. I was really testing like whether the 1,000 versus 2,000 power would come up a lot or not, and it didn't come up a lot. So because of that, I felt better about playing more copies of a counter that's like really good in certain matchups, like this one, over something like the 2K counter. So yeah, this card's really good. We're one of the few decks that can run a level 1 anti-change counter, and still like be able not like sacrifice a lot for it. So I think we should really take advantage of it. It's really good in DAL. All right, next we're playing 2 copies of Lunchtime Kotori. This is, if you know Overlord, it's the exact same as the, isn't it like Bazette or something, like the maid girl. Basically, if you have a 4 more other date or celestial spirit characters, she gets plus 6,000 power. On play, you may draw 2 cards. If you do, you have to discard 2, and then and that's you can do that if you have 2 or more other celestial spirit or date. And then the last one is if you play her and have 4 or more celestial spirit or date, you can refund a stock from your waiting room. So basically just a 10k body that allows you to draw 2 cards. I filter that way, so it's really good. Helps us draw into our mini events, and the deck is also really big, helps us contest board at level 2. Honestly, just a fantastic card all around. And one of the great events that we want to draw is Demon King's Love. This is from the Fujimi set. It is one of the events, and this event, oh, there is not very many like it. So it's a 2-0 counter. Choose one trait of a character on your opponent's stage, and all your opponent's characters lose that trait until end of turn. This can be used as a counter, and there's so many decks that will lose to the trait wipe. So for example, Slime all their power is dependent on trait. Muron requires 2 or more other Demon Continent character, and all the global power effects, all that only applies to Demon Continent characters. So if we use this against a Muron board, their power goes from 12-5 to 5-5, which is way more manageable, and we can actually then contest their board with our level 1s and get over them. It's really good in that matchup. Some other finishers also require trait condition, most notably Ari Ferretta, the restander, requires 2 or more other Tortoise characters. So on their first attack, before they can even restand their first character, we can Demon King's Love, and then they can't restand anything. So yeah, I think there's a lot of really cool matchups where this comes up, and part of the fun of prepping this deck and playing it was just to like really remember like all the matchups and when this comes up and when this doesn't, and just kind of like and to really play around them. So I think it is really quite good in this meta right now, and yeah, it definitely came up. I played against Slime, I won against Slime. This card was a big reason why I won against Slime, and yeah, there's a few other matchups where you just use it to either turn off effects or lower power. It's also really good like at the end of the game, like because we need to get our Tokas some reverses for our level 3 condition. But if your opponent has stuff like JC, has stuff like global power, it can really be hard for us to get over or get reverses. But Demon King's Love, you show them the heart sign and they can't do anything about it. It's very, very nice. Alright, moving on to level 3s. First, we have the early play, which is the Hurricane Children, Kaguya, and Yuzuru. This is one of the best early plays just in the game, really. So 4 more other early play, great condition, plus 3k during your turn. So small in defense, but not something that we're really too concerned about. We do like the higher offensive power stat. And then on play, you can either choose to heal 1 or burn 1. It's just like, it's your choice. Like, that's crazy. And if you want to do both, you just have to discard 2 cards. And hand advantage in this deck is super free. So like, a lot of the times, I'll just discard 2 so that I have 5 cards in hand. And if I trigger a book, I just pay 1 with Toko being seductive, salvage 1, and I'm back up to 7 again. So like, it's so often that you just get to burn and heal and not lose any resources whatsoever. So it's just a really good early play for our strategy. And then level 3 combo, it is Realize Feelings Toka. She is a healer. During your turn, this card gets 4,000 power. And the climax combo with Proof of Love is when it reverses a battle opponent, if it's in the climax, if Proof of Love is in the climax zone and you have 4 more other Date or Celestial Spirit, you can burn 3 and discard a card for a cost, and then you burn 3 and then you Mocha 1. So after you burn 3, you look at the top card of their deck. You can leave it there or send it to the waiting room. So one thing you want to really think about, this card is very similar to the Itsuki level 3 combo from Quint's movie. So Itsuki is on attack, discard 3, burn 3, and then Mocha 2. This card is on reverse with a field condition. Oh, I guess Itsuki is an experience condition. This is a field condition. On reverse, discard 1, burn 3, Mocha 1. So a lot more efficient, but the timing is a little different, and it's a little worse timing because with Itsuki, her attack benefits from the Mocha, whereas Toka's Mochas are for setting up the other attacks of your turn, and your final Toka, if you triple Toka, your final Toka's Mocha is not really doing anything. It's just kind of confirming what your opponent's going to draw. So it's not as good if you triple it. However, Toka definitely benefits from a lot of the other support, like being able to grab the climax from wherever, basically, and having a ton of power, and also being very cheap. Like just having to discard 1 card means that you can play really aggressive early game and still have enough for like double Toka. Basically, like any hand will get you double Toka. And then the last thing is, because Toka doesn't require any stock, and you supposedly on your final turn you'll be attacking 3 times, then you'll have enough stock afterwards to play something like an event counter, which we will showcase very soon. But before that, just 1 copy of the stock swap from Data Bullet, which is the Kurumi and Hibiki. I think stock swap is basically mandatory if you're playing in Weiss in 2023, because yeah, a lot of decks can just compress. If they know your set doesn't have a stock swap or you're not running it, then they'll just compress, and there's really nothing you can do about that. All right, and then last but not least, of course, I guess we can put it right underneath the Demon King's Love, is Basic Realizer. This card is crazy. This is the anti-damage kind of event for Day Life. 3/3. You can do the following 3 times. Choose one of your characters, and then the character across from it gets this character gets -1 soul. So and then this card goes to your memory. But yeah, Basic Realizer is just, it's so good. I actually don't think I used it in any of my games, but the threat of Basic Realizer just makes your opponent play so scared, and like they have to like think about like side attacking maybe, or just like they have to like constantly play around it. And a lot of times when they like would push, like if you're like 2-5 and they're like, oh, I can go for the push, they're like, oh, but I can't beat a Basic Realizer, then they'll have to like think of other ways to go around it. So this is a really good card. Really glad I played it. I think this card just like, it wins you games by its threat, but it also wins you games once you resolve it. And it's also really good because you can split the minus soul. So it's like, it's good if your opponent, like if you're like 3-6, your opponent's trying to do 1-1-1, you can just split it so that they actually just do 0-0-0 and they have the bank on a trigger. It's really funny. All right, and then last but not least, of course, the climax is they have to have the book symbol because we are drawing a lot of cards. And drawing is really good in this deck because we have a lot of events that we want to draw. And then also the Toka being seductive means that even if we're drawing cards that we don't really need, we can always pay 1 to salvage a card that we want. All right, and that's the deck. You guys can take a look at it. And I guess now's a good time to explain why I decided to take Data Live. So, as you guys all are aware, the recent ban list means that Alice is basically not a real deck. It's pretty much impossible to take Alice the way Alice was before and still do well. Alice... It's like basically not coming out at level 1 ever. And that really opens up the meta. Like Alice was kind of having a stranglehold on the meta. A lot of decks are not viable because Alice was around. But now that Alice is gone, a lot of decks are now suddenly viable and can be played. And with a diverse meta, it's really important to know that like a lot of players, especially top players and good players, they're not thinking about a lot of these decks, right? A lot of these decks are just really out of the radar for a lot of top players. And if you're not prepared for a deck like this, especially a deck this crazy in terms of like how many specific like counter tools it has, then you're just simply not going to know what to do with all the information I'm presenting you when I'm playing all these cards, and you're going to misplay, you're going to play into my stuff, and you're not going to have a good time, and I'm going to have a good time. So I think that Data Live has so many good tools that I can use to dismantle whatever my opponent is doing. Like from the Demon's King's Love, Basic Realizer, Anti-Change Counter, JC, Field Counters, the minus power on play, all of that is just adds to just like a crazy, obnoxious kind of like playstyle where I'm always able to answer my opponent's board, and they're always having to play around the stuff that I have. Not to mention the combination of the Kumi level 0 and the Origami means that I'll always get the pieces I need. It's very consistent early game, and then the combination of the Tokas for the book package means my late game is also really consistent. So I have a lot of consistency both early and late, and that's something that I'm very comfortable with. I like being able to get to my game plan regularly and being able to grab the pieces I need always. So yeah, I think that really came up a lot in my gameplay. Like the JC was crazy. I was able to deny a lot of stuff. And then the minus power did come up. I was able to blow up some cards on the board. Minus power, minus trait always came up in Slime, but also a few other matchups I did use it to turn off stuff like Encore, or like it's just other stuff. It's so funny that this comes up. And honestly, just a lot of the cards in this deck they're just really strong individually. Like the level 1 Toga combo is just a strong individual combo. This 2-1 Kotori is just strong. Early play healer, the Kaguya and Yuzu are just strong. There's just like really strong cards. This deck is a really big combination, big combination of really strong individual effects, coupled with a lot of really strong synergies as well. And nobody was expecting it. I think I was like the only Data Live player in the room. I didn't see a single other Data Live player. Nobody was expecting it. Everybody was like kind of watching my games like, what is he doing? And I'm really happy I was able to make top 8 with this deck. I think I played really well. I don't think I made really any misplays. And unfortunately, I just wasn't able to close it out. But, you know, maybe next time. It was really fun, though. I definitely had a good time. So if you have any questions... one last thing before I forget. I am very happy with this exact 50 list. I wouldn't change it. I think this deck runs really smoothly. But on Twitter, good friend Christian Yarbacher did point out that the Origami Clock Bomb double rare from set 1 is a pretty neat inclusion. And I actually like that card specifically because it also gives us a way to generate stock. So when our opponent plays a stock climax, we can send the Origami from field to stock. And I think a combination of that with the JC basically means that if we're playing against a matchup where they want to reverse stuff, they're basically never going to reverse anything. So like, especially against like Avatar, where their finisher is really, really strong, but it is very dependent on them getting reverses. If we have like JC and the Clock Bomb on field, it basically means they're never getting a reverse, right? Which is really good. So yeah, there's some matchups where I think the Clock Bomb could come up in. So that's something you can play around with. And I do like the fact that it gets extra stock. Like I'm like staring at that extra stock going like, oh, I really want that extra stock. So that's one thing that you guys can consider. Everything else though, I would say that this 50 list is very, very solid. If you want to change anything, you probably need to change a lot more because you're kind of changing the identity of the deck and what the deck is really trying to do. Yeah. If you have any other questions about this deck, feel free to ask in the comment section below. I hope you guys enjoyed this deck profile. And yeah, my encouragement to you, go try and play all your crazy deck ideas. Right now, the meta is very wide open. And the effort that you put in to really coming up with your own ideas and perfecting it, it will pay off. So that's it. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.